Mute.
Okay.
Welcome, good morning, everyone, to the 2022 California Preservation Conference, and with our theme, Opening Doors. I'm Adrian Scott Fine, and I currently serve as the president of the Board of Trustees for the California Preservation Foundation. On behalf of the board, thank you for being with us today, this week, and this weekend for our many programs. We cannot do what we do without you, our members, supporters, and advocates for California's historic places. So I'd like to start by thanking a number of folks that are making today possible, starting with our conference sponsors. We could go ahead. Thank you for all you do to sponsor and support us and make this conference possible. I'd also like to thank our Doors Open California sponsors as well for our new program. We're very excited to launch this year. And then lastly, I'd like to thank our annual sponsors. Again, you make our work possible to save California's historic places. I'd also like to thank our small but mighty California Preservation Foundation staff, Cindy Highsmith, Executive Director, Jonathan Haber, Field Services Director, and Christine Madrid-French, Director of Development and Marketing. Thank you again for all you do in terms of making this work possible and the work of CPF. And then to kick things off today, I'd like to, I'd also like to thank our California Preservation Conference Committee. These are the folks, the many folks behind the scenes that made today's conference possible. So thank you for all your volunteer time and work to make this a reality. Thank you. And then lastly, I'd like to kick things off today by introducing Julianne Polanco, California's State Historic Preservation Officer, to share some highlights statewide and beyond of current efforts underway. So welcome, Julie. We're happy to have you here today.
Thanks so much, Adrian. Good morning, everyone. It's always my honor and pleasure to be with you at the beginning to kick off the California Preservation Foundation Conference. It's my 7th year as your State Historic Preservation Officer, a position that I am honored and privileged to be in support and partnership with all of you. The theme of the conference this year is opening doors, and I really especially think it's important for us to remember that preservation is so inclusive that it really does infuse in every aspect of society, and we can do more with partners better together. And all the work, the program that you've put together will really amplify, I think, those opportunities, the examples, and the things that we can do going forward together. Equity and justice is in every part of what we do in our office and our service to the people of California. We've recently just concluded our Tribal Historic Preservation Officer, State Historic Preservation Officer Summit in Klamath, California, hosted by the Yurok Tribe. We had more than 100 tribal participants, state agencies, federal agencies. We get together and have a really open, honest conversation about where we are and where we're headed and how we can work better together. They're always so inspiring, and for us to learn about the needs and the desires and goals of our tribal communities in California is just very important to all the work that we do in consultation within the National Register context, and then the special programs that we work on every day as well. In the underrepresented communities grants section, we have 3 that I wanted to highlight to you that we are either in progress or about to start. You may have heard me talk about our tribals, the California missions in the 21st century, and it's specifically through the lens, the experience, and the stories of the California tribes. That context statement is wrapping up. We expect it to be completed in September. We invited over 60 tribes to participate, those who self-affiliated with the 21 California missions. We've had about 30 participants, and we're very excited. They decided the themes, how to populate those themes with stories, are helping to identify resources that are specific to telling those stories. And then that theme story will be produced in conjunction with an update to La Parissima Mission's National Register nomination form. We're very excited to be adding that layer of history in the National Register framework from the voices of the first experience to help us better understand and collaborate on the stories of California's beginnings. We are completing the second phase, our Asian Pacific Islanders in the 20th century multiple property document submission process, and that document is the second part. We've already completed the first. We'll add layers of history and bring in Vietnamese Americans into that context statement. We hope to have that done by the end of the year as well. That complements our Latinos in the 20th Century document that has been completed for a couple of years now. And then a new one that we've just funded and are about to put into contract is one for the African Americans in California in the 20th century. So all of these documents together help us to learn, share, and observe about the many different rich layers of history that is our California. We're very excited to be working with community members in these efforts and really just driving the bus and being the collaborators on these things. They will also, I think, include some educational opportunities afterwards to let people know where they are and how to use them. And then if you go to our website, which Christine's going to put in the chat, there are many other theme studies that will help to also understand, elaborate, illustrate, and commemorate the stories of our rich California. We're really excited to be offering and to be conducting these studies with our communities. Also, in the world of climate change, you see in the governor's budget millions of dollars that we have invested in already in the space of climate change. California has just released its adaptation strategy. That is the superseder to a document called Safeguarding California 2018, which for the first time considered how cultural heritage can play a role in climate action, these intersections, and where we can combine project stories, efforts for greater ambition. To that end, the state, we have been participating in something called the California Cultural Resources Climate Change Task Force. And we're really excited to be partnering with CPF this Friday for a listening session and some information about that. I hope you'll join us in the margins of this conference. You'll learn about what the task force is, what work we've been doing to date, and then you'll hear from some of our state partners about efforts that they put together after and between and in conjunction with these efforts to really test the waters. How are we going to be more inclusive with cultural heritage and climate change to both change behaviors that we need to do in order to meet these low carbon goals, and also to help bolster the cultural presence in our climate actions. We've also been active with the Climate Heritage Network, a group that was stood up in the space of the Global Climate Action Summit in San Francisco in 2018, a large part thanks to California Preservation Foundation and our local partners team. That group is raising these voices on an international level and was recognized by the United Nations Cultural and Climate Change Committees as one of 24 organizations to participate in something called the Race to Resilience. This is an effort that will bring the voices of culture and fill in those gaps to all of the climate change conversations at the convening of parties, or COPs, if you will, over a 5-year period. We're excited to be co-leading that effort to really help understand, again, where those intersections can happen, where we can play roles in culture and an expansive role of culture. So museums, collections, local organizations, in addition to tribal and indigenous organizations, the built environment, and archaeology. We're really excited about that, and I hope you'll join us. We have lots of calls for conversations and partners. All of that information is on our website. A couple of highlights that we'll talk about on Friday are the Climate Vulnerability Index Assessment process, where we're infusing culture into an already known environmental process for greater holistic outcomes, and also to talk about a carbon building calculator that will help engage and make decisions in a better way when we're looking at how to reduce that carbon to the 1.5 degrees. The State Historical Resources Commission has been really engaged in the last couple of meetings about how they can get more involved in workshops and understanding issues that are specific to what they're calling what is the Californian. And in that role, sort of the ideas, the themes of Californians are diverse, but we're also inclusive and innovative. And so stay tuned for the California Resources Commission website, and you'll see the topics and guest speakers that we'll have in the coming meetings. Really excited that the commissioners are taking on this role to both better educate themselves to be better commissioners, as well as how we can serve our public better and be more inclusive and do a lot more listening. We have a really exciting educational opportunity coming up, again in conjunction with the California Preservation Foundation and partners, Paige and Turnbull, Mel Green, and others, to talk about buildings in California. It's a workshop that was funded by FEMA and the Brace and Bolt program at Cal OES. The modules will go into what makes a building historic, how to understand what buildings look like, how to work with a contractor, and then what kinds of things one would need to know in order to brace and bolt their home. It's meant for homeowners, so not practitioners in preservation, but we're really excited about this opportunity because we think it does two things for us. It really will help put information in the hands of the people who are making the decisions about their personal homes, as well as create modules that can be amended for things like climate change or sea level adaptation. We're looking at fire hardening as a next module. And so we're really trying to create and build upon training opportunities that are available free of charge, on demand, and then also people can participate at the same time. All of this information, again, will be on our website. We invite you to join us, to share and learn, and help us be part of this community that really is keeping the doors open, inviting everybody in, and making our wonderful state of California more diverse, as inclusively as possible, so that we can create a low carbon, resilient future. Thank you so much for having me. And Adrian, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Julie. Clearly, we have a lot going on, which we appreciate. But I do want to thank you for all the work that you do on behalf of heritage conservation efforts and the entire staff of OHP. And I also want to acknowledge and thank you for the leadership you're playing in terms of addressing how heritage conservation and climate change are one and the same, and making progress there, not just in California nationally, but internationally. So thank you for that. And now I'd like to turn this over to our keynote, Carol Highsmith, who is a delightful person, but she also is a nationally recognized American photographer, author, and publisher who has photographed people and places in all 50 states. In 1992, Ms. Highsmith generously donated all of her work to the Library of Congress, which established a rare one-person archive that now stands at more than 100,000 images, available royalty-free and with online access throughout the world. Her work is featured in more than 50 publications, and today we're very fortunate to have her here, and she will connect her work across the country with the theme of this year's conference theme, Opening Doors, talking about the importance of heritage conservation and how each of us can play an active role in protecting our shared heritage. So thank you, Carol, for joining us today.
Thank you, Adrian. I appreciate it. Let me just get my thing up here. Okay. So this is a big deal for me. I'm just thrilled about this and very honored to be here. I love California. I love America. So I've spent the last 42 years documenting it and donating all my work to the Library of Congress. I thought about opening doors, and I thought, what kind of interesting doors do I have? How about this one, the Alamo? Beautiful, isn't it? Beautiful. And I'm not sure if it's ever been opened, or at least probably for 100 years, who knows? I spent more than a year in California documenting everything I saw. And there's so much everywhere. And historic, of course, historic buildings that are iconic. Of course they are. How lucky was I? I just had the moment without anybody around when I was in LA, and I photographed the Walt Disney Concert Hall, and they've used it over and over again. So I was quite thrilled to have captured this. And then, of course, all the Napa Valley historic wineries were fascinating to me. And it's not just buildings I do, because, of course, so much of America is becoming historic, like Dodger Stadium, Coit Tower, San Francisco. I mean, it's gorgeous. And there it stands just all by itself on top of the hill. And then you go inside, and the art is just amazing. And that's America at its best. I was able to kind of talk my way up to this dusk scene and was quite thrilled. I'm always talking my way through everything anywhere I go. And of course, the Golden Gate Bridge is bar none. There's nothing like it. And I kind of talked my way up to the top of a building here in Los Angeles because I'm always looking for timestamps. I'm always looking for something that will show us 1,000 years from now. What did we look like during this time? I also take a lot of aerials all over the country. Watts Tower. I mean, why is that important? Oh, yes, it is. That was a time period. It was complex. And there they stand. They're unique. You can't walk around Los Angeles downtown and not see something odd. And why not? That's a storefront. I think it actually was the front of a restaurant. I'm not sure it's still there. And then the case study houses. I was able to go there and document this. It was built in the 50s. Now, why is this important to me? Because there was an architectural photographer named Julius Schulman who photographed movie stars. And he actually made historic preservation, or should I say buildings, important because he showed them off with movie stars. So he really put architectural photography on the map. I would say I photograph everything. I mean, if it's in America, I just point my camera towards it. But architecture is what I'm really interested in and what I've done a lot of. This is out in Palm Springs, Frank Sinatra's piano pool. How fascinating. I mean, I've traveled all over the world. I've traveled to China and Russia and Europe many times, but I love America and I love American architecture. And look at this of the interior of Hearst Castle. Oh, and so I've kind of taught myself how do you photograph interiors, and you kind of can't lose on this shot. And then there's the pool. I just wish I would have brought my bathing suit while I was photographing here. And of course, I love the kind of kooky aspect of American architecture, Venice Beach clown. Wow. Okay, so how did I get involved in this? I was actually working in broadcasting many, many years ago, and I won some trips, and I won a trip to China. And when I was getting on the plane, one of my clients gave me a camera. Well, in the 70s, you couldn't take a bad photograph in China or Russia. No, you can't. And so I was able to just click the shutter, knowing nothing really about the camera, and come back with some amazing things. And there were times when people crowded around us because we were Caucasians. They'd never seen anything like it. I started, however, when I got back from China and Russia, my career in the Willard Hotel, 2 blocks from the White House. Yes, this is what it looked like. It had been closed. I went in 1980. I think it had been closed since 1968. Yes, that's when Nixon had a party there during his re-election bid. They gave away doors as door prizes. And the bats and the rats and the pigeons came in after that. And it fell apart and it looked like a nuclear bomb had hit it. Look at this, some cement stairs that I used to climb while I was there all by myself with just a guard, 2 blocks from the White House. So finally one day, this man from Europe started to restore it. And he walked down the hall of the Willard Hotel one day and he had some black and white photographs in his hands. And I said, "What are those?" He said, "Well," he said, "we don't have any architectural drawings of the Willard Hotel. So we're looking at photographs that this woman, Frances Benjamin Johnston, took." Well, she also caught this absolutely beautiful self-portrait. And this is what Frances looked like as she aged a little bit. But here's why she influenced me. She gave her work copyright free to the Library of Congress. Andrew Carnegie sent her down to the South to photograph antebellum mansions, plantations. So this is the shot she took in 1901 of the Willard Hotel. That's how they brought it back together again. And this is the shot I took in 1986 when it opened. The desk is still there. The all of this area is still there. All of these columns that they used to, put wrap in vinyl just to keep up with the Holiday Inn, and finally they closed. It was a 5-star hotel when she was roaming around. Abraham Lincoln watched his inaugural from there. Martin Luther King wrote his "I Have a Dream" speech in the Willard, but by then it was really falling apart. That room, the Peacock Room in the Willard Hotel, that's one of Frances' photographs, but that room's gone. Like a lot of America, during my younger years, when I first started photography, we didn't seem to understand the importance of historic. Now, Nixon was going to, now remember, I've been to Russia. I saw, Red Square. I saw what they had done with it. Moscow, however, is gorgeous. But anyway, Nixon was going to rip down all of Pennsylvania Avenue and just leave the tower of the old post office. Luckily, he had a little group that came in to the Willard Hotel and they squatted. They were called "Don't Tear It Down." They were very important to the whole preservation movement. I then went on down to Union Station, and that's what that looked like. That had also been closed, and most of Pennsylvania Avenue was just awful. And so there was Union Station. They hurriedly opened it long before this. And the problem is they forgot to fix the roof. And so they had a slideshow that, of course, if you just went outside, you could see most of the slides, what, Washington, D.C. looked like that were showcased in the slides. And so they started to restore Union Station also, and I was there for every inch of it. I also photographed for the National Trust the embassies of Washington. They were beautiful. I loved it. But I'll tell you, this made the difference in every thought I had about preservation. I was doing a book for Random House on New York City, and I got near the World Trade Center, and I thought, I can't get this in. So I thought, well, you know what I'll do? I'll hire a helicopter and I'll take it from the water. Well, it worked. Only 2 months later, it fell on 9/11. 2 months after I had taken this photograph. And it just said to me, you need to continue doing this and donating everything to the Library of Congress, because that's the library is going to preserve these images, and it's amazingly important to us. So I photograph everything: monuments, Washington, D.C., Korean Memorial Monument, Monument Valley. Sometimes I put people in just to show you scale. Monument Valley is probably my favorite park. I just love it. It's, Western movies personified. Hey, this one, Yosemite, and Arches in Utah. All of these are our magnificent national parks that Teddy Roosevelt helped us kind of put in place. I also am all over America photographing our courthouses. This is the $1 million courtroom in Detroit. And look at it. Oh, looks like $1 million, doesn't it? And you know why they call it that? Because it has 30 different types of marble. I'm working right now in Louisiana. Oh, talk about gorgeous. I'm doing a book on Louisiana for a documentary that PBS, Louisiana Public Broadcasting, is putting together on Louisiana. It's going to be called This is Louisiana. It's not Mississippi, and it ain't nothing else. And that is the truth. So they have plantations on every corner. That was Parlage. This is Homa's house. I was just at Homa's house 2 days ago. It's just lush down here. It's gorgeous, gorgeous. I've done many Mardi Gras parades. Last year, they had the pandemic, so they did Yardi Gras. They didn't have a parade. They didn't want all those people all squished in together. No, they didn't. I've been to small towns like Telluride, Colorado, and look at that beauty queen. I've been to Johnny Cash's boyhood home. You know, the man that sang, "I've been everywhere, man." I get that. I've been everywhere, man and woman. I have, in America anyway. These are the log cabins where my grandfather and great-grandfather were born. They still stand in North Carolina. How lucky am I? And we have them back in the family. Woo! I can visit where they lived and were born. And then I went inside, and you know, this is an aunt of mine and her 90th birthday. I can't guarantee you they weren't born in this bed. You know, and sometimes even something that is modern becomes historic, like this modern art museum in Fort Worth, Texas, or these diners. This is Dolly Parton's hometown, right in Tennessee. And then they have the historic American cars out front. How beautiful is that? Woo! And you know, I'm a lover of Route 66. We have across America, from California to Chicago, a lot of the old Route 66 road. And I mean, it is magnificent. I've traveled America since I was a child, and I think it's one of the reasons why I'm so adamant to capture it. And this is Route 66. It's an old motel in New Mexico. And look at it. Even the neon works and everything works, and people stay there still. Woo! I've been to Memphis. I'm going to be very shortly photographing Elvis Presley's home. And then I see some decay. Yes, I do. Now, the colors are still in this motel. Nobody stays there anymore. I'm sure at the time that it was up and running, it was big, that a lot of people stayed there. But I am usually on the sunny side of the map, but every once in a while, I just have to photograph everything. This is the interior of the Supreme Court, right next to the Library of Congress, by the way. This is one of our tall capitals, the Nebraska State Capitol, called the Tower of the Plains. I don't do just our buildings. Sometimes I'll do a TP out in the middle of nowhere. Now, I'm always careful, however, of the dinosaurs. This is Stephen King's house. I had to take you more than just, to the Midwest or the West. I had to take you all the way to Bangor, Maine to show you that. He writes very scary books, but he lives in a beautiful house, and it's very historic, I'm sure. This is Chicago, Grant Park. Isn't that fun? That's art. And it probably is historic at this point too. I have lived near or in Washington, D.C. for the last, I don't know, 100 years, maybe 150. No, I've lived here in Washington, D.C. for probably, I don't know, 40 years, 50 years. And of course, there's nothing like that spectacular 4th of July moment. This is Ann Mitchell's, she wrote Gone with the Wind, apartment in Atlanta, Georgia. This is beautiful, isn't it? It's historic, gorgeous. Only one day, I spent my childhood in Atlanta with my grandmother in the summers. Atlanta looked like New Orleans, historic everywhere. It was gorgeous. One day, the corporations came in and they swept all of that away. So when I went to New Orleans, finally, I said, this looks like something I've seen, like Atlanta used to look. Anyway, they do still have her apartment. It's kind of all walled off all by itself, the house, but not much else. This is Frank Lloyd Wright's Falling Water in Pennsylvania. It's absolutely gorgeous. I'm so glad so many of those have survived. I also do highways, like the Enchanted Highway in North Dakota. You might not know that exists, but you might want to travel it because it's to die for. Look at this, how fun. And yes, that is snow. This is the Library of Congress, the Thomas Jefferson Building. I did a Life magazine article, photographs for a Life magazine article, and they thought it was the most beautiful building in America, and so do I. This is the Thomas Jefferson Building. They call it that because actually he donated his books when the Capitol burned down a long 1,000 years ago in 1812, I think it was, or in the Revolution. They lost their books, and so he gave them a lot of his books, a lot of his collection. And they still have those books. And this is named after him, this building right here. And this is the Madison Building. And this is the Adams Building. So you see they're all named after previous presidents. It's a vast campus. It is the greatest library, the largest library in the world. And it's the most historic photographic collection. And Dorothea Lange's migrant mother is there, and a lot of what she did during the Depression are there. And I feel that capturing, and look at this gorgeous room, it's called the Members Room in the Library of Congress, that capturing our buildings and everything about America right now is probably just as important, or will be as time moves on. I also love Florida and the Art Deco. There's a lot of Florida that's been swept away, but Miami has kept the Art Deco district. And then there's Baltimore. Yeah, or Camden. There are places in America that have absolutely been destroyed. And it's sad. It makes me very sad. This is I think I showed you this once before. This is a diner in Tennessee that's to die for. We have a lot of lighthouses. I think we have about 900 left, and they're gorgeous. And we're so lucky to have them because, 1879 was a long time ago, and they've been kept up. And of course, when they're on the water like this, they're in harm's way. But look how beautiful this one is. This is Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln's home in Springfield. He had a great life there. And when he left Springfield, he went off to be president. And it, I think, became complex. This is Jekyll Island, Georgia, golfers. This is all still there. Jekyll Island still in place. This is the watchtower in the Grand Canyon. And it was designed by a female architect. Mary Elizabeth Jane Coulter, and it's just magnificent. And then I like to be a little bit kicky because America is, and I love neon. This is Gino's Steaks on South Street in Philadelphia. A very famous architect, artist, I should say, James Tyrell, created this art in Texas, and I just love it. And I visited another place of his out in the desert in Arizona, which I'm not sure he's willing to put out there yet, but it was amazing. This is Glory Window and Thanksgiving Square by Phillips Johnston. And look at this. Is this magnificent or what? However, then there's the Super Dogs in Chicago. All America. Oh, and how lucky was I? This is the Mona Lisa barn in Wisconsin. It's been painted over now. I was lucky. And we're all lucky because at least I have a shot. Oh, and you know, while you're living in Baltimore, why not make your end house stand apart? You don't want it looking like the rest of these, do you? Paint it pink. They did. And then this is New York City. It is magnificent. New York City has so many sides. This is a side too. And the Biltmore, Frank Lloyd Wright again in Arizona. And Burning Man. I don't know if any of y'all have heard of Burning Man. It's out in the desert in Nevada once a year. It hasn't been for the last couple of years, but I've gone 2 or 3 times. This is a temple they build from scratch, and then they burn the man right up here and the temple at the end of the festival, which is the most artistic thing I've ever seen. Acoma, 2,000 years old. I believe it's probably the oldest city in America. And there it is, Sky City, they call it, on a little beanie wean city on top of a hill. And this is Thomas Jefferson Monticello. They have the windows covered so that nothing will be hurt inside by the light, but they took those coverings off for me to take this. Oh, what a moment. And this is the Farnsworth House in Plano. It may look modern, but it's becoming historic. Anything I believe over 50 years old is historic. And I love to take aerials. This is Denver, Colorado, because just think about looking at this aerial 1,000 years from now, 1,000 years from now. And of course, there's nothing like Los Angeles. This is a museum of art. So I've kind of taken you around my America, the America I love. Now, if you had about maybe the week, maybe I could get through all the images I've taken. I've been everywhere. I truly have. I'm doing all the states. I have 4.5 states left. Hawaii, Alaska, Utah, Idaho, and Montana. Utah, just a little bit left. That's it. I have been donating my work for a long time. I've been traveling America for 42 years. I am donating everything. There is a collection in the Library of Congress that is the featured digital collections. I'm the only living person in that collection. I think there are 21, if I'm not mistaken. I love what I do. I don't think I'll ever retire because I think it is that important that if we can't preserve our historic structures totally, but at least we have images of them. And I work in the highest resolution digital camera on Earth, the Phase 1 camera. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I very much appreciated it. appreciate it. And I also am thrilled to be here. And I love California. Thanks a million, and hopefully see you again at some point.
Thanks, Carol. Don't tune off just yet.
Okay.
First of all, you have the best job in the world. So we're all very envious of what you've been able to do, what you continue to do. And thank you for what you are capturing in terms of across the US, places that we all care about and are working to preserve, and you're doing your own part in that, but also being so generous and donating this work so that we all have access to it, which is really remarkable. So thank you.
You can go on the Library of Congress and just download anything I take. And now that I'm on the highest resolution camera on Earth, there are a lot of images that are very high resolution, and they give you 4 different options, all the way from JPEG all the way to high resolution TIFF. I'm honored. I love this country. We are, and I've been all over Europe many times, and there's, nothing kind of like it, but there's nothing like America either. It stands alone, doesn't it? Now that you can see what I see all over the map, it's just amazing. And every state is different. Think of California, and then think about the plantations that I'm recording right now. The difference between the two, and yet y'all both stand alone in historic preservation. It's wonderful. And then during my lifetime, so much has disappeared. But there are a lot of laws, thank goodness, now that are in place that isn't allowing this to happen. So I'm very honored to be here, and I'm thrilled to be walking in this country and photographing everything I see, and donating it to the Library of Congress.
Well, thank you again. We really appreciate it.
Right.
You make all of our job easier in terms of being able to show why these places matter, in part by the images that you're producing. One question for you.
Yeah.
Is there one elusive place that you still haven't been able to get to that you want to photograph, preferably in California?
Well, believe it or not, Francis Benjamin Johnston even traveled out to California, San Francisco. So amazing. Well, I wouldn't mind doing the Easter egg roll at the White House because she did it, and I've never been able to get there. California, I'll tell you, I was there for a very long time, maybe even a year and a half. I was highly funded to go out there. And so there's a lot. I tell you, your Native American, the tribes, I would love to get to. I think that's really important. And I don't know if they have been documented to the point where the images are given without any tethering. So I would love, if y'all want to put me in touch with them and let me go at it, I would love. And I'm sure the Library of Congress would be highly interested in doing that. As I said, I'm just trying to think. I mean, you don't know, you can't imagine where I went. There wasn't much I didn't cover. I mean, I think I spent 3 days in Hearst Castle alone. I was pretty much everywhere.
Well, if you're ever looking for volunteers, I think that if you need assistance or whatever, we could find plenty of people that would be happy to step up. One question that the group has for you, if you wouldn't mind answering, was how do you get these amazing photos? But where, you get them sometimes without the people. So what is it you're doing to engineer that? We'd like to see people in places, but sometimes you're able to capture a place that, we'd often don't experience that way.
Okay, so when you become an architectural photographer, you take a course in patience. You have no idea the importance, I think it is, to take a photograph that has nothing but the architecture there. So what did I do? I went out during the pandemic. There were no people in Bermuda shorts at these wonderful Louisiana plantations because the pandemic. We were out, my husband travels with me, we were out the entire time capturing everything you can imagine. And especially the plantations that didn't have any visitors. So they let me inside and everything.
Mm.
So you kind of, and then also, I'm not kidding, patients, just taking maybe 2 or 3 hours. I want the flag to be perfect. I don't want anybody around. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I want to show you the crowds. But so we were at the Chinese Theater, Grumman's Chinese Theater. And I think maybe the owner or whatever came out to walk the land. There was nobody else there. It was 7 o'clock in the morning on a weekend, I think it was, or maybe a weekday. So my husband went over and asked him if he could just step behind the building, and he wanted to ask him something. And I went click, 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 click. Because usually that's jammed.
Yeah.
So, but also the fact that I've been doing this so long, I have been able to, like, for instance, the Alamo has all sorts of barriers around it. And I stopped one night, it was lit. I took the shot, nothing. And, other than the Alamo was there. No people, no nothing. There you go. Got it. So
Right.
I think it's also the longevity of how long I've been doing this, and how many times I've gone back to that one spot. The plantation behind me, for instance, Greenwood, is owned by, it's privately owned. So we went up the other day, we didn't know anything about it, and asked the owner if we could just please go in and take a photograph. Nobody was there. How lucky is that? So it's a little bit of luck. It's a little bit of patience. It's a lot of patience. And it's also just that I am willing to go back until I get it right.
Well, you get it right. And thank you for doing what you do. And again, for this collection, and keep doing it.
I will.
So
I
we
don't
look forward
intend to
seeing more of your
retire.
images. Again, thank you. I also want to thank Julianne again for being with us today. Thank all of you for being here today as part of the conference. We're just getting started. So look forward to more. Tune in again at 10:30 when the programs start throughout the day, the rest of the week. And then we are also launching our new program, which we're very excited about, Doors Open California. So you'll be able to see on-site, places throughout the state, places that Carol has photographed and others. So enjoy those, enjoy the conference. And if you have any questions or you're looking up for more information, go to the California Preservation Foundation website. You'll find the full array of information about the sessions, the times, and everything. But just enjoy and be part of this. And again, thank you for supporting the work of California Preservation Foundation and being a part of this conference. So we'll see